obviously, in Hero. Claudio and Don Pedro will maintain they saw what they saw, and it is not their fault if finally Hero was made public. Then Don Pedro and Claudio will run into Benedict. Benedict is in no mood for joking. He will challenge Claudio to a duel for causing the wrongful death of Hero, the poor girl. Claudio and Don Pedro are told by Dogberry then what has happened. Borachio admits he and Don John are responsible for ostensibly framing Hero. And now the innocent girl is dead. Claudio and Don Pedro cannot believe it. Blown away. Claudio and Don Pedro are really sorry that they called the girl a harlot and killed her. And Leonardo enters, obviously having heard the same news. Claudio says that he and Don Pedro are to blame as much as Borachio and Don John because they believed in the slander against Hero. Right? Leonardo says Claudio can, however, make it up. By A, going to Hero's grave, mourning for her. You've got a song, an epitaph there to be hung over the family tomb. And in so doing in a public way, we can clear Hero's name. Right? After that, Claudio is going to meet Leonardo at the house, and he's going to marry Antonio's daughter, who is exactly going to look a lot like Hero. During this time, Benedict and Beatrice have been flirting, Benedict trying to write some kind of set of lines, which is Shakespeare's fun way to make fun of bad poets. Ursula will rush in to announce that Hero's name has been cleared. That night, Don Pedro and Claudio go to Hero's tomb. They hang the epigraph, they mourn, and Claudio will promise he'll do this ritual once a year, every year, on the anniversary of Hero's death. We now have the new day. All of this sadness is about to end because Hero now is going to get to marry Claudio. Nobody knows it's Hero, obviously. Hero and the girls will put on covers. Benedict will, before the wedding, pull aside the friar and say, hey, listen, me and Beatrice would maybe like to get married. What are your thoughts? Don Pedro and Claudio will enter. Claudio's going to agree to marry Leonardo's niece, even though he hasn't seen her. They won't let him look at her. Then, obviously, he gets to see her and immediately recognizes that it's actually his Hero. As everybody then is about to head off for the wedding, Benedict will make a big show, public announcement, calling out Beatrice, asking if in fact she loves him. What do you think? She says, only if you love me, not really. And both of them are going to publicly deny their love. I mean, they realize they're having to eat some serious crow in this moment. Claudio and Hero will expose both Beatrice and Benedict by revealing love notes that the two of them have exchanged. Benedict declares, fine, I'll take you. And she says, fine, and she says, fine, I'll take you. And they're going to get married. Benedict, in the meantime, will announce that he and Claudio now can be friends again, because technically they're going to be related. Word will come that Don John has been caught and will be dealt with later, and everybody now is going to the dancing to have a good time. Now, this idea, of course, of harmony that Shakespeare loves most is always going to finish his comedies in the form of weddings. Let's talk now really quickly about the big five, as we call it in AP, that we're always concentrating on. First of all, what does this play say to us epistemologically? Well, it's the same question of Othello, isn't it? It's the same question of a number of plays. Think about Macbeth. And that is, when can you ever really know for sure, right? And the moment you think you're absolutely certain epistemologically about what you can know, sometimes things come along to prove that what you thought was absolutely certain, Claudio, about his Hero, is absolutely wrong. So these plays, epistemologically, and especially this play, is suggesting that the fallibilist position is a far better position than the absolutist position. That is to say, humility. Be careful, you don't always know what you think you know. Have a little bit of humility. Ontologically, well, obviously the question is, what is this thing about who we are? And why is it that we're so quick to judge? What is up with that? Notice the father even is ready for his Hero to be dead if in fact this accusation is accurate. The ways in which, think of it, in Lord Capulet, in Romeo and Juliet, will immediately go to that place with his daughter Juliet when she says, I can't marry Paris, no way. What kind of people are we that seem to kind of have this sense of judging the way we are? Psychologically, of course, How about it? All actions have motivations. If that's true, then explain Don John. In the same way that we ask about Iago. Is Don John just born this way? He just seems to be a person who is always wanting to cause mayhem. We think about the birth of Batman's Joker, for those of you that know those kinds of texts here, in these kinds of characters like Don John and Iago from Othello. Sociologically, this is a fascinating one. The way we learn to care about what others think and what others approve or don't approve of. Think about Benedict and Beatrice and the way that they're so quickly able to change their opinion and their mind. Once at Worland High School, there were two guy and a girl that really hated each other. And my students studied this play with me and decided that they were going to try to play that game. And they pulled it off, actually. They were able to make the same dynamics in play, and it actually worked through a series of texts and sharing and this kind of thing. And the two who hated each other's guts ended up going to prom together. They call that the adieu moment, right? Okay. What about theodicy? Well, think of it. We like to believe that out of the chaos and all of the suffering, there will come some kind of meaning. Don Pedro, in the end, will get caught and will be punished. And even though at times it's a mythology, we want to believe in this notion of harmony and, in Shakespeare's day, the power of marriage as a symbol of that. Well, speaking of symbols, let's jump really quickly to level 2 and 3 at 2A messages. Obviously, love is fickle. Right? And especially men, frailty, thy name is man, right? And of course, we have that notion that we've got a lot of times it's the stupid people in the play, the fools of the play, who actually figure everything out. The smart people, who are of that upper class of people, they oftentimes are too stupid, consumed in their own sociological concerns about class. At 2B, the symbolism, we mentioned the foolish clowns, obviously Don John as well. The irony, of course, at the central part of this play is Benedict and Beatrice and their willingness to change their views and to fall in love with the very person they swore they hated. At 3A, other titles that come to mind, we mention a number of Shakespeare plays here. Midsummer Night's Dream, obviously, love is blind. What is the line? The course of true love never did run smooth. Romeo and Juliet. Interesting that playing with the Pyramus Thisbe storyline, much like in Midsummer Night's Dream, but notice here for Romeo and Juliet it ends tragically with Claudio and Hero. It ends obviously happy. Think of Othello and the power of Iago and Don John, and as we said, other texts like the Batman series with Joker, and how some of these people are just born, it seems, to just be evil. When we study our Lear, we'll meet Edmund the same way. Finally, at 3B, how can you relate to this stuff personally? Well, what was a time in your life when you changed your mind about someone that you really, really did not like? I've had students that say, in my life, some of my best friends ended up being the people who initially I did not like at all. Several of you are nodding to say, yeah, that is absolutely true. What is a time in your life when you were absolutely certain about something you saw, only to discover later it wasn't at all what you saw? And to that degree, what was a time in your life that you really had to learn a little bit of humility, epistemologically speaking? Well, there you go. I hope you enjoy the study of Much Ado About Nothing, which, of course, was something in the end. Thank you.